One of the types of problems we've had a little struggle with is solving the word problems when it comes to multiplying with our fractions. And a lot of times it's just kind of identifying what is it that the problem's trying to ask us and what do we need to be able to solve this problem. So let's go through a couple of examples so you can kind of see how to kind of work through and set up a problem like this. This one says the male Cuban tree frog is about 2/5 the size of the female Cuban tree frog. The average size of the female Cuban tree frog is shown at the right. What is the size of the male Cuban tree frog? So, to the right we see that the female is approximately 6 inches as the average size. It says the male Cuban tree frog is 2/5 the size of the female Cuban tree frog. That word of is kind of our signal. It's basically saying that we want 2/5 of the female. Well, the female in this case is 6 inches long. As we've talked quite a few times in class, that word of is a good signal to you. When you want to find 2/5 of a number, what you really want to do is you want to find 2/5 times that number. To find 2/5 of something, you multiply that number times 2/5. So we do 2/5 times 6. Remember to write 6 as a fraction. To write a whole number as a fraction, we simply write the number over 1. 6 over 1 is the same thing as 6. Then we go ahead and multiply. 2 times 6 is 12. 5 times 1 is 5. We get 12/5. First we look to see if we can simplify. There's nothing that both 12 and 5 can be divided by. Then we notice it's an improper fraction. My numerator is larger than my denominator. So I need to rewrite it as a mixed number. So I ask myself, how many times can 5 go into 12? Well, I can take away 2 whole groups of 5. 2 groups of 5 is 10. So if I take away 10, I'm left with 2 pieces left over. So it is equal to 2 and 2/5. So let's take a look at another one. This is one we discussed in class. It said one evening, 2/3 of Mrs. Thorne's students watched a reality television show. Of Mrs. Lombardo's students, 4/5 watched the same reality show. Which teacher had more students that watched the reality show? So, what a lot of us did the first time we saw it was to go, oh, 2/3 times 4/5, and we went ahead and we went and found our answer. But if you think about it, the question asked which teacher had more students watching the show. 2/3, 4/5 is not talking about the number of students. Okay? That's not an actual number of people. So another way of thinking about it is look at Mrs. Thorne's students. It said 2/3 of her students watched the show. Well, how many students did she have? If we look over in the table, it says Mrs. Thorne had 36 total students. So 2/3 of, which we said means multiply, the students in her class. So it means 2/3 times the 36 total people in her class. So we go ahead and we multiply. Remember to always look to see if we can cross-simplify anything. In this case, 3 and 36 can both be divided by 3. So we can do a little simplifying early. And then we go ahead and multiply. 2 times 12 is 24. 1 times 1 is 1. 24 over 1 is equal to 24. So we found out what 2/3 of Mrs. Thorne's students was. Now it says of Mrs. Lombardo's students, 4/5 watched the same reality show. So, as I like to say, 4/5 of what? Well, of Mrs. Lombardo's students, which was a total of 30. As we talked about, of is another word for multiply. So we really want 4/5 times 30, which is the same thing as 30 over 1. So we're trying to find a fraction of that total number. So it's really just a multiplication problem. So we look to see if we can cross-simplify. 4/5 times 30 over 1. 5 and 30 can both be divided by 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 30 divided by 5 is 6. Then we multiply. 4 times 6 is 24. 1 times 1 is 1, which is equal to 24. So in this case, both teachers had 24 of their students watching the reality TV show. So in this case, neither teacher had more, they both had the same amount. So let's check one more problem. It said the table shows where 6th grade students at Sharonton Middle School attended 5th grade. There are 156 6th grade students. How many more students attended Sharonton Elementary than Deacon Elementary? Well, and if I look at my table, it says half of the students went to Sharonton, 1/4 went to Deacon. But that doesn't tell me how many actual students went there. It tells me for Sharonton, half of the students came from Sharonton Elementary. Well, half of what? Well, half of the 156 total students. So I really want to do 1/2 times 156. Well, when I multiply, I get 156 halves. When I divide, I'm trying to find out how many times does 2 go into 156. Well, that's just the division problem I can do off to the side. 2 goes into 15 7 times, which is 14. Subtract, I get 1, bring down my 6. 2 goes into 16 8 times. So 156 halves is the same thing as 78 students. That's Sharonton. So now let's look at Deacon Elementary. There it said 1/4 of the total students. Well, 1/4 of what? 1/4 of the 156 total students. So in this case, I want to do 156 over 1 times my 1/4. Well, that gives me 156 over 4. Again, just a division problem. If I were to try to break it down and see how many I have, well, that's just a division problem. 156 divided by 4. 4 goes into 15 3 times, which is 12. Subtract, I get 3. Bring down my 6. 4 goes into 36 9 times. So there are a total of 39 students coming from Deacon Elementary. So I'm just taking that fraction of the total amount. The last part said how many more students attended Sharonton than Deacon. Well, 78 students attended Sharonton, 39 attended Deacon. That's a difference of 39 students. If I were to subtract those two from each other, I would get an answer of 39. So that's how we use our multiplying with fractions to help us solve some of these word problems.